Hey guys, how are you? I'm really happy to welcome you back into my garden. In today's video, I want to focus on jobs for this season, exactly those kind of things that you might want to do around this time of the year to make sure that the garden keeps on looking nice for the rest of the year. The first thing I already did, I cut the lawn. You might see it in my back. It is really nice, crisp looking carpet of greenery, which I love. And it looks so nice and green because we're blessed with a lot of rain. We had rain just in the morning and now the sun comes out every now and then, so it is a little bit muggy. But what I want to do in today's video is I want to do a little bit of maintenance. I want to plant something even. I want to pot something up. So I think that there is something for each and every one of you, and I hope that you are excited to join me in my garden today. The very first job that I want to do with you today is deadheading, and that is a quintessential job that starts now midsummer and carries on throughout the rest of the season, and it applies especially to your annuals and to your tender plants like dahlias and cannas. First of all, I want to show you on Cosmos, which are annuals, on how to deadhead them and just explain to you why you want to deadhead them. Because annuals, they work different to your perennials. Perennials, they come to bloom and then they flower for a certain amount of time, but as they die back over winter, they store all of the energy in the root system, and next year they will come back just from that very strong root system. While annuals, they don't really have a very strong root system. Most of them have fibrous roots, and they really focus on having a lot of nice top growth and especially on producing blooms. But once the blooms are spent and they set seed, the plant kind of says, all right, now I'm happy, I've set seed, so I have a lot of reproduction going on for next year, so I could just gently fizzle out now. But this is not at all what I want for these Cosmos, obviously, and you can tell they look terrifying because, you know, I was gone for 2.5 weeks where I was in Germany. Nobody took care of these, nobody did the job, and now is the perfect time to do it, because what happens if I come in now with my secateurs and just snip all of the spent flower heads off, these plants go into panic mood. There is like an impulse in them like saying like, oh my god, all my seeds are gone, I need to continue producing flowers because only then I will have offspring for next year. And this is the reason on why you want to get in there and just snip off all of the spent flower heads. And identifying the spent flower heads on Cosmos is very easy because the fresh buds, they are kind of like dense and round, and you just know, oh, they're just about to burst open and produce these beautiful blooms, while the spent ones, you could really see they're kind of like dried off, brownish, very sad, the petals are hanging down. So all you do is really just come in with your secateurs and just snip it back right to the stem where it came out. Do not strip it back deeper, because if you do so, then you might just snip off some of the side branches that would just appear and produce more stems and more flowers, quintessentially. So this is going to keep me busy for, I think, a good 10 to 15 minutes now. And then I want to take you with me down to the next layer of this slope where I grow my dahlias and show you on dahlias and how to deadhead those. Because I remember the first time I was deadheading dahlias, I struggled a little bit with identifying, okay, what to deadhead there. But before I'm going to take you there, I quickly want to clean up all of this drift. Isn't that so much nicer? I mean, just the difference. Now you really get to see and appreciate all these colors in here again. Before, it was just an ocean of dead brown material. There is even a bumblebee already on these blooms doing her business. To be fair, I could have been a little more diligent. There are some blooms that are just about to fade away. You can just tell by the tone of the color. They're almost like grayish pinkish now, but you know what, I was like, just leave them, and then next time I can do more deadheading here. And a lot of more buds are appearing, so I'm really happy about this. What I'm going to do now is take you with me to the last layer of the slope, and then we deadhead some dahlias. Deadheading dahlias is also one of those really important deadheading jobs that you want to do throughout the entire season, because dahlias, they produce blooms extremely long, definitely till the first harsh frost arrives. So this is why I always say it's really good to spend a little bit of time on this. And sometimes it's kind of meditative to just do it first thing in the morning when you do your rounds in the garden, just with a bucket and some secateurs. You could just like do a little bit of deadheading. It's a little mindless and a nice thing to start the day actually. With dahlias, you can always identify kind of easily which are the spent flowers and which are the ones that you don't want to cut, because obviously when they are open they are all fantastic and beautiful, but then you have two different kind of buds. You have those that are kind of like elongated, and if you press it actually squidgy, so those are the ones that you don't want to have. And then you have the ones that are round and very firm. If you squeeze it, you will see that they are firm and the texture is different. So the round ones are the ones that will burst into beautiful blooms, and the elongated ones, that are squidgy are the spent flowers, and those are exactly the ones that you want to snip off. So all you do is you just go all the way down your stem here. You don't just cut off the top part, because then you will left with a brown dead stem, which is not nice. You really want to go deep in where the stem comes out and just nip it off completely. And this is all you do now. You just work your way through and just take out all of those squidgy ones that are the spent flower heads. If you do cut dahlias, by the way, for your vase, it is never a good idea to cut any buds, because from my experience, they just won't open in the vase. When it comes to dahlias, make sure that you cut those that just open, that look fantastic, because they will make you extremely happy in a vase. So what I will do now is work my way through this patch. I've already deadheaded the other ones, and just deadhead them to make sure that the show keeps on going. The next thing that I want to do is I want to do some planting with you. And if you do it at this time of the year, it almost feels a little bit like staging your garden, because as you do your rounds and your tours through the garden, it's quite easy to identify where you're missing something, or where something just didn't really come the way you were hoping for it. And this is exactly the situation what I'm about to show you now. I put some of my seedlings in the island bed, and they are a magnet for slugs and snails. And I would say maybe 50% of them pulled through, and the other 50%, they're kind of coming. But you know what, I think I could just amp up my game and put something really nice and beautiful in there. So this is exactly what I want to do, just show you the situation, how it looks now, and then also show you what I came across in the garden center. This is where I want to do some planting with you today. So this is the rear end of the island bed. To the right you see some sedum, and then you see panacetum on the front and some nepeta. And just behind the panacetum, this is where I planted some Rudbeckia cherry brandy that I grew from seed. Some of them look kind of nice. They are pulling through, and I'm really optimistic that I'm going to see some bloom. Definitely going to see some bloom there, but then some basically just were eaten by slugs and snails. I already started digging some holes here because our neighbor is a farmer, and he was just like doing something with the engine, which was really, really noisy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to utilize the time. So yeah, this is the area where I want to do some planting and amp up my game a little bit. And I was really thrilled to find other Rudbeckia in the garden center, these here. They are no cherry brandy. They look different. If you compare the blooms, they definitely distinct different. These here are a little more like doubles, but still they are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at them. No label information as usual. Whenever I buy something here in the local garden center, you know how it works. But I think that they will be just a perfect addition here. So what I'm going to do now is put them into the ground. I'm really excited about that. I only got my hands on 5 of these in the local garden center here, so I think what I'm going to do this afternoon is drive to another garden center, and fingers crossed that they got a delivery just of the same Rudbeckia, because this is normally how it works here. What I'm going to do when I plant anything is I always make sure that I plant a dead level as to how it comes in its container, and I always sprinkle in some organic bone chips in the planting hole. Here with Rudbeckia, it is always a little iffy if they survive winter. So I have cherry what is it called? Cherry brandy in another area of the garden, Rudbeckia, and I would say kind of like maybe 50% made it through winter, and then out of those maybe 25% made it through the slug and snail attack earlier on in the year. But I think if I just continue, at one point maybe I will have a good patch of robust, really nice looking Rudbeckia, and they are actually one of my garden favorites. I think they are so beautiful. They give an impact, and if your dad had these as well, they're going to continue flowering for ages. They have quite fibrous roots, and they are not pot bound, so the roots look really nice. I'm not going to disturb them. If you have fleshy roots, you could just come in and just pull some apart, but here I don't think that it is a good idea, because I will just put a lot of stress on the top growth. So what I do really is I come in, put them in the planting hole dead level. I need to backfill with a little bit of soil in this one here, and then make sure that I firm it in really nice, so that it has the roots have a good contact with the soil surrounding it. I do not want to have any air pockets. We are going to have more rain tomorrow, so I won't water in anything, because I know more goodness is on its way. And then I just plant them in between my Rudbeckia cherry brandy, with high hopes that those are still going to pull through and produce some lovely flowers. But still I have a little bit of a backup here, which makes me really happy. So all I'm going to do now is take more of these plants and just finish it off and put 5 of them in the ground. I feel this tiny bit of color really helps a lot already. I hope that I find at least 5 more, because then I can really fill up all these gaps where the other Rudbeckia were basically tackled by slugs and snails. But aren't they just beautiful? Wonderful color, great addition. I think they also work fantastic with the dark foliage of the shrub here in the backdrop. And then obviously with the purple, and there will be purple asters in the back. And then I have Bistorter in the back and Amaranth. I'm going to give you all the updates very soon on how things are looking in the garden. But I think this is a lovely addition and just a blob of color that I was desperately missing in this area here. The next thing that I want to do is I want to do some fertilizing. To be precise, I want to fertilize my roses, something that you normally do twice a year. I completely forgot about fertilizing my roses earlier on in the year. So I think that they'd be very happy if I give them some goodness now. Right next to my strong Annabelles and the sedum, I have a patch of roses, 3 of them. This is a variety called Novalis, and in a different area of the garden, I still have them in bloom. They produce absolutely gorgeous, true violet flowers, but here you can tell some of them are spent. And what you want to do with roses as well, same as I just did with you in annuals and dahlias, I come in with my secateurs and I just snip them off so that they encourage to produce more blooms. So I'm just going to work my way through here, but you can tell that some of them actually produce blooms, and this is exactly what I'm going to do. First, I'm just going to deadhead, and then I will show you how to fertilize these. As I just said, when you fertilize your roses, you do it twice a year. The first time in early spring, just around March time, and the second time when they stop flowering, which is really depending on the region where you're gardening. So it is in between June and July. For me, it is definitely more towards mid-end of July. I might be a week too late because most of these already stopped flowering, I would say 10 days ago, but I wasn't here, so I couldn't do it. What I'm going to do now is I will remove the mulch a little bit from the sides, because everything is mulched in very thoroughly in my garden, because it just holds the moisture extremely nice. When you do fertilize, there are obviously different kind of fertilizers that you can use and that you can buy. The one that I have here, I'm just going to open it now, is, well, still in a plastic bag, so I need to open it first. It is kind of like a dry granulate. I hope that this is the right word for that. I'm not really sure. Sometimes I feel I make words up here. But this is kind of like how it looks like. And if you want to distribute it now around your rose, you just do not want to come in there and just put it straight next to the stem. Just think about how the rose develops its roots. You want to make sure that when the fertilizer breaks down as it gets in contact with water from rain or you watering your roses, that it really reaches the roots and does all the goodness there. So what you do is you sprinkle it in a radius, I would say roughly 30 centimeters, probably like 15 inches, around the stem of your rose. It is a little powdery and it is really looking nice. And then I just come in with my tiny garden fork and just work it in here, rake it in to make sure that it is kind of like in good contact with the soil. And then I can just push the mulch back over it. And when it rains tomorrow, right Alfie, when it rains tomorrow, all of the fertilizer is going to do the goodness and the roses are going to come with more blooms throughout the year. The very last thing that I want to do today is I want to pot up some of my seedlings, especially the snapdragons that I was sowing together with you. So I've already prepared everything and I'm really excited to show you how they look. The way on how I want to use these snapdragons is for a little pot garden that I want to do later on in the year, pretty much around Thanksgiving time, maybe a little earlier already. So this is a good kickstart for this, and this is also the reason on why I chose bigger pots to pot them on, and I will only put probably 3, maybe 4 in one of these, because I really want to make sure that I have well-established plants in these containers so I could use these as they are and then just put them into bigger pots to arrange them. So this is my idea. And when I divide them, I always have my very advanced garden tool, which is the chopstick. And this kind of like, this is not a chopstick actually, this came from one of a flower that I bought, so there was a label in there, but it's almost like a chopstick. And these things always work best when you want to pot on any of your tiny plants. So all I do now is I just tip it over gently. Soil already crumbles off a little bit. And then what I do is I just break it loose, but really, really carefully, because I don't want to disturb these roots in here. And that is all I do now. Some of them have really small roots still, but then it's good when you come in with your chopstick. So all I do is I just make a little bit of a hole And actually you should never grab it by the stem. You should always grab it by one of the leaves like this, because if you break the stem, then your seedling is basically gone, then you can't salvage it at all. But if you grab it by one of these leaves, then what happens is maybe one of the leaves is gonna snap, but then you will still have the rest of your plant. This looks good. My, what a wonderful root system it has developed in such a short amount of time. So what I do now is just really gently push it in here. And since they look so great, yeah, I think I'm going to put 4 in one container. I'm going to have 200 containers again, probably. Maybe I put one more in there. And this one I'm going to do, work my way through here. I'm going to be very happy, hopefully, with the process. I'm going to keep you posted. One point in autumn, I'm going to do a little bit of a pot garden arrangement. And fingers crossed, if this works out, that pot garden will also use some of these beautiful snapdragons. That's it for today's video. I hope I could encourage you to do some of these jobs in your own garden as well. And if not, maybe then it was just entertaining for you. I just want to show you my back, the snapdragons. These are the mini cherry cola ones that I just potted up. So I'm really excited to get more of those for later on in the year. I just want to say thank you so much for watching today's video. Also, thank you so much if you decide to subscribe to my channel, and I would really love to welcome you in my garden next time around. Take care, guys. Bye.